Okay, so welcome to the next lesson. This lesson, we're going to be looking at the 6 secrets to successful hypnotherapy. It's what we call the practitioner mindset formula. What is the mindset that we need to get into as a practitioner, and what's the formula to get there? Now, the practitioner mindset formula is what it takes to get 100% success every single time with your clients. Step 1, it's about enthusiasm. So when you take on a client, or you're considering taking on a client, only take on a client if you are enthusiastic, if you're excited about working with that client, because therefore you're going to do the best work. You don't want to cut corners. Look, there are times when it's appropriate to cut corners if you believe it's going to get your client a better result, but it's not appropriate to cut corners when you just think, I can't be bothered, I'll just do the fast way. So it's looking at being enthusiastic. Another part to it is having behavioral flexibility. It's having been so enthusiastic, you'll do whatever it takes to get your client a result. And so that could mean that you need to speak just a little bit slower than what you're used to. And other times you just speak really fast because that person likes to speak really fast as well. And it sounds like they've had a whole pot of coffee and they've got all these great ideas and they want to get them out and they want to hear your great ideas as well. And you need to speak as fast as what they speak. And then there's all these different styles that you need to maybe consider. Can you push yourself to speak with someone that's really loud and boisterous and really over the top? And can you speak with someone that's just a little bit softer, a little bit quieter? And it's having that range in your delivery that is behavioral flexibility. The concept is that the person with the most amount of behavioral flexibility will control the situation. And when I say control, it's about having the most amount of influence to respond to whatever's going on. And so that's what we talk about by having behavioral flexibility and being enthusiastic. Now, all of these elements of the practitioner mindset formula have been used by the world's most successful hypnotherapists. We just boiled it down into what are the 6 things you need to know that's going to help you get great results. Enthusiasm is number 1. Number 2, it's looking at beliefs. Now, I think you're ready for this, and that is to understand that what we believe is something that we've decided upon. Now, if you believe that water is good for you, well, it's because you've collected enough evidence to then create a decision in your mind at some point that you believe that water is good for you. Now, that is something that I now believe with certainty. I believe with certainty if I drink more water, I will be healthy or healthier. So a belief is built on a set of past experiences that we generalize, we make a decision, and we decide that that's going to dictate part of the future with some sort of prediction or with some sort of dependability. Now, a belief is actually a lie, though, and it has lie in the word. And what I mean by it's a lie is a belief is something that works for us until it doesn't. And often what we believe in are just lies, but they're lies that work for us until they don't. For example, at one point in our lives or in our society, we used to believe that giving a certain drug to women that were experiencing morning sickness was a good thing to do. And it was in the 70s and maybe the 60s, thalidomide. And that we actually found out later on that caused birth defects. And so, we realized, hang on, that was a lie. What we believed was right was actually a lie. We didn't know enough about it. And there's so many things in life where we don't know enough about them. I mean, you look at the current situation. Many of us believe that those wet markets weren't a big deal. Well, it shows that those wet markets in some of the third world countries have a bigger impact to the global economic future and lives of the entire globe than what we probably first thought. And so that old belief was a lie. We should have been focusing on shutting down those wet markets. And so that's really just understanding that there are so many things that we believe today as being factual, as being true, that maybe tomorrow we'll find out are incorrect. And now the reason why you want to think about beliefs as being a lie, for 2 reasons. One, for you personally, because we all have limiting beliefs. We all have things that hold us back. We all have this invisible ceiling that we're butting our head against and we think we can't get through it because we think it's a real ceiling. It's not a real ceiling. It's an invisible ceiling. It doesn't exist. We're held back by these invisible prison bars of our mind, and we can just choose to not have them anymore when we get resourceful enough. And so it's good for us as practitioners, as coaches, as healers, to work on ourselves. We are the most important person we'll ever work with. And so it's about working on yourself. And then understanding your client's model of the world. And your client's model of the world is they also have beliefs. And their beliefs are right for them until they're not. But they are just lies that they fully believe in at the moment. Now, when it comes to the practitioner mindset formula, not only do we just want to understand this conceptually, but we want to make sure that our client has 3 layers of belief. The first layer is they need to believe in themselves. They need to believe that it's possible for them to change. They need to come from a place of possibility, not impossibility. They need to believe that it is possible for them to make a shift. Number 2, they need to believe in you as a practitioner. They need to believe that you can help them, that you know what you need to know to get them a result. And then number 3, they need to believe in the technique. So I'll show you what I mean by this. That when I say technique, they need to believe in hypnosis, that hypnosis is the tool that's going to solve it for them. Because they can believe in themselves, they can believe in you, but then if you ask them to do some weird thing like stick the pen up your nose for 5 minutes and it'll solve your problem, if they disbelieve the technique, it's not going to work. If they believe in you, they believe in hypnotherapy, but they don't believe in themselves, it's not going to work. Now, if they believe in themselves, they believe in hypnotherapy, but they don't believe in you, it's not going to work. And so we need those 3 layers of belief to be in place. And as you'll find out through some of the pre-interview questions, you'll start to frame up and get more certainty in understanding your client's level of belief. And you can ask them directly. Let's go to number 3. So number 3, the third element is leverage. And this is our way to assess the client's emotional investment and their commitment. Now, often what will happen is it's separating what is intellectually known versus what is emotionally felt. We want to find out their emotional investment, not the intellectual investment. People will tell you what they think you want to hear. They'll tell you, yep, I'm all in, 100% in, I'll definitely do it. Yep, I'm going to change this. Yeah, it's a big problem for me. It sucks. I'll do whatever it takes. You go, okay, my fee is $200. Oh, no, I can't do it. Well, earlier you were telling me it was a 10 out of 10 problem. So just know that some people will intellectually tell you that it's a big problem, but emotionally they're not feeling it. So what we want to do is assess our client's emotional investment and their commitment to getting the change. Because again, why? Because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. The transformation has already started. Please understand that a lot of people feel like, oh, the transformation doesn't start until you sit in the seat and I ask you to close your eyes. That's not true. All of this starts the transformation. It stops someone from having a tight grip over their problem to when they go through this, by the time they come in, it's a loosened problem. The problem's loosened. Then we do hypnosis and it just drops out. And so by doing this, it's not like, oh, I'm just putting up blockages or I'm putting up gates for my clients to walk through. This is part of the transformation. This is the indirect, the hidden, the invisible transformation that's going on for your client even before they sit in the seat, even before they jump on a video call with you. So the first step, what we're going to do here is ask them on a scale of 1 to 10. So I'd ask the question, whatever the problem is, let's say someone comes to smoking. I'd say, okay, great. Well, let me ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a problem is the problem of smoking for you? 10 being it's a massive problem, 1 being it's not much of a problem at all. And I'm going to ask them to give me a number. Now, sometimes people go, oh, it's a big problem. I go, great. What number would you give it? Oh, I don't know, an 8 or a 9. Great. What number would you choose, 8 or a 9? Oh, 9. Awesome. So I'm always going to get them to focus on just one number. Now, ideally here, what we're looking for is for a high number. We're not looking for a low number. If it's a low number, it's not going to work. They're not really want to make that change. And so we're looking for a high number from them. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? I'm an 8. Fantastic. I'm happy with anyone being a 6 or above, because someone that's a 6 can be someone else's 10. This is all subjective. You're just getting people to self-assess where they feel they're at in terms of how big of a problem the problem is for them in their life. Now, what this does psychologically is it motivates people away from pain. More people, as a generalization, will move faster away from pain than they'll move towards pleasure, which is why it's framed up as how big of a problem is this problem for you right now on a scale of 1 to 10. We're going to focus on the problem. Now, normally it's not a great thing to do. We don't always just focus on the problem. We're going to shift our focus as we transition through the program, but we're going to start there for now because we're going to stir up a little bit of pain because that's going to motivate the majority of people. And then once they give us a number, the next step to this is we want to calibrate. We want to calibrate to make sure that we have the same understanding. So if my client says they're an 8 out of 10, what I'll say is, okay, great. Well, look, what an 8 means to me is, and I'll share with them what I believe an 8 really means. So to me, an 8 out of 10 means, well, it's a pretty big problem. Like, you do most things to overcome it. There's a few things that you probably wouldn't do, but you push yourself a fair way outside your comfort zone to get the outcome. Does that make sense? Does that sound right to you? And I'm getting them to confirm that we have the same agreement, that we have the same understanding. Occasionally, I'll get a client that will say, no, I'm actually not that high. When you put it like that, no, I'm probably a 7. That's okay. I am happy for my client to increase or decrease. I just want them to have certainty in that number and for us to have the common understanding as to what that number means. Typically, the times when I'll get people that will decrease it will be if someone says they're a 10 out of 10. I say, well, 10 out of 10 means it doesn't get any higher than that. Like, that is, like, if I've found out I only had 2 weeks to live, that is a 10 out of 10 problem. I would do whatever it takes to solve that problem. I wouldn't go, you know what, I'm busy this week, we'll do it next week. No, I'd be like, let's just do it. Let's get it done. I'm in, I'm 10 out of 10, let's get it done. And say, is that what a 10 out of 10 means to you? And that's when often they're like, oh, crap, okay, I'm probably not quite like that. I'm probably an 8. Awesome, great. So again, just make sure you're feeling comfortable. Like, you need to take control of the session. You need to be comfortable in challenging your client, because you can't get every client a result by just that cuddly, feely energy. There are times when that cuddly, feely energy works and it's great and you want to have access to that. But going back to behavioral flexibility, enthusiasm, there are times you need to step up and you need to challenge them. You need to call them out on some of their gaps in their own belief system, in their awareness, to make sure that, because you are the expert, you know how to get them a result. They don't know how to get a result yet. That's why they've come to you. So you're massaging them and moving them in the right direction so they can get a great result. Once we have the common understanding, once we've calibrated, the next step is to give them an ordeal. Now, an ordeal is a task that you give them that requires them to challenge or test that leverage. If they said they're a 10 out of 10, you're going to give them an ordeal to test them there. If they say they're 8 out of 10, you give them an ordeal. If they say they're 6 out of 10, you give them an ordeal. So let's have a look at ordeals in a little bit more detail. So a very common ordeal that I've asked people to do when it comes to smoking is I've asked people to pick up cigarette butts. And this is how I deliver it. So there's a bit of a language patterns that I use. And my language patterns are this. I'll say to my client, let's say my client says they're a 10 out of 10. It's a big problem. They want to solve it. I go, great. So let me ask you this. Tomorrow, I can help you become a lifelong non-smoker. But I'm going to ask that you do something for me. Would you be willing to do something for me? And I say, yes. Oh, great. Well, imagine this. Imagine if I was going to give you $1 million. Is that desirable? Would you like $1 million? Most people say yes. Yeah, I love $1 million. You're great, awesome. What if I said to you that I'm going to give you $1 million and all you need to do is give me 300 cigarette butts. If you can pick up 300 cigarette butts off the street and bring them to me by 9 o'clock tomorrow, I will give you $1 million. Is that a good deal? Now, most people say yes. They say, yeah, that's a brilliant deal. I mean, it's, 300 cigarette butts. Occasionally someone will go, I don't know about that. I mean, 300, I'm busy and I'm not sure there's even 300 out there. And they tend to make some excuses. And I say, oh, look, I'll tell you what, like, if you want to flip it, if you give me $1 million for 300 cigarette butts, you give me half an hour, I will go and get 300 cigarette butts, because that will be the best pay packet for half an hour of my time I've ever gotten before. Half an hour to get 300 cigarette butts. You challenge me, I will do it. You happy to do the reverse deal? And they're like, yeah, okay. And they understand then. And I go, look, but for $1 million, like, would you pick up 300 cigarette butts for $1 million? And generally my clients will say, yeah, I would. I go, great. Well, it's not going to be $1 million. What it is going to be, it's going to be added years to your life. It's going to be you feeling better about yourself. It's going to be you being healthier, you being able to breathe easier, you being a better role model to people around you. I mean, what's that worth? That's priceless, right? And so that's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you'd like me to help you become a lifelong non-smoker tomorrow morning, I want you to show me, and more importantly, you're showing yourself that you are committed to getting yourself this result. And by doing so, you're showing me, you're showing yourself, you're showing universal intelligence or God or whatever it is that you believe in is above us, this greater intelligence that's around us, you're showing them, myself and yourself, that you are fully committed to doing this. So I position it like that. But then I do a takeaway, what we call a takeaway. I pull it back. I say, but look, you don't have to. You don't have to do it. You don't have to become a non-smoker tomorrow. You don't have to work with me. You can go on for the rest of your life and you can do whatever it is you want to do. And you can wait another week, you can wait another month, you can wait another year, you can wait another decade. It's up to you. It's your choice. But if you would like me to help you become a lifelong non-smoker, tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'm going to ask you to pick up 300 cigarette butts. Would you be willing to do that? And that's how I position it. Now, so the kind of the ingredients to that, I mean, that's kind of like the recipe. The ingredients that go into that is I'm always going to give them an ordeal that's going to push them outside their comfort zone. Number two, I want to make sure it's verifiable on completion. So I don't ask them to just pick up 300 cigarette butts and throw them in a bin that I don't see. I get them to bring them in. I get them to show me. Now, through video calls, you would just get them to hold them up. Now, you can't count 300, but you're going to get a good feel for what it looks like. So you always get verifiable evidence that they've done it. It needs to require their effort and their time. Now, when it comes to ordeals, you need to have two. You know, as a business, you can have a financial ordeal. That's the cost for your service. But then you also want to have an experiential ordeal. And this positions you as an expert. Like you are going, you know, if you really want to work with me, I want to see this added ordeal. This added ordeal stops people from being wealthy and who just pay your fee but aren't emotionally invested. You need everyone to be emotionally invested in this. And so it's getting everyone to put in effort and time, because what do wealthy people value more than money? Their time. It's their time. We all have finite amount of time. And so you get everyone to put in the effort and put in the time. And number four, give them the experiential ordeal after the financial ordeal is completed. So get them to pay a deposit first, and then you give them the next step. Don't do it in the reverse order, because make them be energetically committed before you even give them the experiential ordeal. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. You're giving them, this is part of the transformation. The therapy started, I mean, they don't know this, but the therapy starts at the point that you're giving them the ordeal. So if they haven't financially invested in your service and your therapy, don't give them the ordeal yet. Get them to commit first, whether it be a deposit or a part payment, or ideally paid in full, and then you give them the ordeal. Because now they're emotionally invested, or now they're financially invested as well, or energetically invested. And then number five, don't work with the client until they complete their ordeal. Just don't work with them. I had one client once who wanted to improve her sales result. She worked for herself. And one of the things that she was, I'll just stop sharing for a moment. One of the things that she was focused on was getting more confidence so she could improve her sales. And when I saw her, she was probably in her late 20s. She was perfect makeup, perfect hair, designer clothing, designer handbag like Louis Vuitton or something like that. You know, just things that she had some significance with how she looked. And she wanted to improve her sales result. And I thought, okay, what is an ordeal that I can give her that's going to help her in this area? Now, again, think about the concepts. The concepts of an ordeal is to push them outside their comfort zone. I thought, well, here's this woman. She takes pride in how she looks. How am I going to push her outside her comfort zone? So she paid a deposit. She wanted me to work with her. We set an appointment, and I said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big a problem is it? 10 out of 10. Okay, it's a really big problem. And I sort of said, what 10 out of 10 means to me? She said, yes, absolutely, because this is my money, this is my income, this is my livelihood. I need to get better at this. Like, great. All right, so this is what I'm going to ask you to do. On Wednesday, when you turn up, Wednesday morning, when you come into the office, and this is when I was running a clinic in Melbourne, I then said, when you come into the office, I want you to come in, no makeup, not having done your hair, no shower, and I want you to wear your daggy clothes. It's like, what? Now, she was like this. Now, is this a facial expression of pleasure or pain? She's like, what? That's pain, right? That's pain. So that's what we're looking for. When it's through a video call, we're looking for that initial response of, what? You're going to ask me to do that? You know, that sort of anguish, that doubtfulness, like, really? That's what we're looking for. Because why? That's when we know they're outside their comfort zone. If ever I've had someone say, oh yeah, I can do that. Well, guess what that tells you? It's not outside their comfort zone yet. So you push them again. I've had people before, I've said, I'm going to ask you to pick up 300 cigarette butts. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. I'm like, okay, how'd you do it? Oh, just got a jar at home. Okay, great. And now it's 600. What? And they make this sort of gesture like, what? And so, because going home and just emptying a jar into a bag, that's not uncomfortable. That's just them cleaning out their home. And so, you feel free to increase it or decrease it. I have decreased it before. I've had someone who said, okay, I'm going to ask you to go and get a group hug, and I could see fear in their eyes. Unbeknownst to me, they didn't tell me that they had a fear of being around people, around crowds. They weren't there to address that. And so when I saw fear, I'm like, well, I don't want to cause another problem. So I didn't say that. What I said to them, when I saw that, really going to ask me to get a group hug, and kind of seeing that fear response, I'm like, you know what? No, I got a better idea. And I softened it. And I said, yeah, okay, I wanted you to run out to the beach, and I want you to scream at the top of your lungs, I love myself and I'm amazing. And they're like, what? That's not fear response now. That's kind of still discomfort. So, feel free to increase it or decrease it. You're just trying to get your client into that sweet spot of being just outside their comfort zone. Not into their freak out zone, but into the sweet spot of the growth zone. So anyway, so there was this woman, and so she turned up on the morning, perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect designer clothing. And she's like, but Shane, you don't understand. I've got appointments to go to. You don't understand. I really want to do it. But I just can't. Like, I had to book appointments. There was nothing I could do. Please, I am committed. Now, that was an example of her being at effect. She was at effect in that moment. When I've been at effect, she is making excuses. She is making, she's saying that the excuses are what's stopping her. Well, who chose to book the appointments? She chose to book the appointments. Previously, she told me she was a 10 out of 10. So I just helped her understand that she chose the appointments over her own transformation. That's really what she did. She said, these appointments mean more to me than my own personal transformation. This short-term pleasure is greater to me than the long-term satisfaction. And that's not a great way to live your life. That's how people get problems in their life. They focus on short-term gratification. And so when I helped her understand, she's like, oh, you're right. Now, she was disappointed. And I know at that point, she's like, she may choose not to work with me. And I'm okay with that, because I don't want to work with anyone that is not going to fight for themselves. I can't fight for someone if they're not going to fight for them. And so it was about me. It's what we call a power frame. And that's not saying I've got a power trip, but it's like, you have the power. You as the practitioner have the power. It's not your client. Your client needs you more than you need your client. It's coming from that place of abundance. And so, I held that space. I'm like, look, you don't have to work with me, but if you want to become better in your sales and you really want to get this result, I'm willing to work with you, but we're not going to do it today. We're going to do it. We have to book another appointment. It's like, yeah, I really want to work with you. I really want to work with you. Like, great, okay. So on Friday, come in, Friday morning, come on in, no makeup, no hair, daggy clothes. She's like, oh, I can't believe you asked me to do that, Shane. Like, even my boyfriend doesn't see me like that. I'm like, that's cool. Like, no one else is going to see you. Just come in, you can bring clothes, you can get changed, whatever you need to do. I just want you to turn up and showing yourself and showing me and showing the universal intelligence that you are that committed. You are going to get this result. And the hypnosis is just going to help you lock it all in. She's like, yep, okay, I'm going to do it. I said, and this time, I want you to get mud and I want you to rub it on your face. She's like, what? Really? Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to do now, because I need you to show me you're even more committed. And to her credit, she turned up on the Friday morning, no makeup, no having daggy hair, daggy clothes, and more makeup on her face than I expected to see. And she got a result, and she went on and did bigger and better things. And so, that's a quick little example of how to really hold space for your client. Your clients are not the experts. You are the expert in this. And your clients will not always be easy clients. They might need a bit of coaching. They might need a bit of pushing and pulling and to get them through, because their psychology is not the psychology it needs to be just yet. Your job is to guide them through that. There's going to be moments where they doubt themselves, where they're going to be pissed off, where they're going to be upset, where they're going to be sad. It's our job as a practitioner to guide them through that. Now, not every client's like that. Most clients are pretty easy to work with. There's going to be a few like that where if you plan for those more challenging clients, when they happen, you'll have a plan and you just follow that plan. So I hope that makes sense. Let's jump back to the presentation now. See if I can get this to work. So as I said, don't work with clients until they complete their ordeal. Just like with that woman, I didn't work with her until she completed her ordeal. So let's keep going. Now, that's leverage done. Let's move into number 4, the fourth element. The fourth element is prestige. And the principle here is to uphold your prestige and your credibility. So there's a few ways of doing that. And that is, this is a certification program. You end up getting certified as a practitioner of hypnotherapy. That means you can have your name, and at the end you put a capital H with a small t. That's hypnotherapy. That's the practitioner of hypnotherapy. Big H, small t. Now, of course, you've got to complete this course to get there, but that then gives you a level of prestige, gives you a level of credibility. It says that you have the basic competency in order to claim that title. Now, there's other titles you can go to, the same way that people can be a counselor, or they can be a psychologist, or they can be a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist does more years of study than a psychologist. A psychologist has more years of study than a counselor. And so there's different levels to it, but the basic level is being a practitioner of hypnotherapy. That's how you start to develop prestige. Now, one way to uphold your prestige and your credibility is if you make a mistake, and there's a good chance you will from time to time, you keep going. Imagine if a surgeon was performing surgery on your knee and it was a local anesthetic, and you could hear and see everything, and then all of a sudden the surgeon's sort of doing some surgery on your knee, and they say, "Oh, oops, just made a mistake." Would you be concerned? You probably would, right? You'd probably be really concerned. But do surgeons make mistakes? They do. They just never say, "Oh, I've made a mistake." I mean, it's a legal issue for them. They do. Now they're liable. But what they will do, they make mistakes, but they just talk about how to repair them. And so that's what you're going to do. You don't really talk about how to repair them, but you just repair them. So if you make a mistake as a practitioner, you keep going. The alternative is you're hypnotizing your client, you get part of the way through, and you're like, "Oh, sorry, I just made a mistake. Can we go back?" You've just lost all prestige. Now they don't know whether they've chosen you correctly, whether you even know your stuff. So if you make a mistake, you keep going. Hypnosis is a very forgiving process because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. That is why it's so forgiving. If a client really wants to get a transformation, they will. I remember when I very first started off learning these techniques, I tried a particular technique on a client. It's an NLP technique. I tried a neuro-linguistic programming technique on it wasn't a client, it was my cousin. And I did it completely in reverse. Completely. Accidentally. Not intentionally, but accidentally. And I realized just as I was doing the last part, in my head, I'm like, "Oh my God, I've just done it in reverse." But I remembered that if you make a mistake, you keep going. And that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All transformation is self-transformation. And so I just held the belief that it's going to work anyway. And guess what? He got a result. He got the intended result. Because there are many transformations that we make in life where we don't use a hypnotherapist for. We don't use an NLP practitioner. We don't use a therapist in any shape or form. How fast can someone make a change in their life? Super fast. So, hypnosis or hypnotherapy is just a construct that helps the client believe that now they can give themselves permission to be more resourceful. Now they've gone through a ritual. Now they can be more resourceful. All right, so if you make a mistake, what do? You keep going. Number 2, work with people that only know you as a practitioner of hypnotherapy, and avoid family and friends. Don't work with family and friends. The reason for it is this, that unconsciously they remember you for being who you were before you even got into hypnotherapy. They remember you as brother or sister, mum or dad or aunt or uncle or cousin or neighbor over the road or friend or person I used to work in this job with, or whatever it is. Whatever the previous relationship dynamics are, they've got all of that sort of identity and stuff to work through. Even if they're like, no, I believe you can do it. I believe you can do it. Don't work on them, because that's just what their conscious mind's telling you. What do you know about the unconscious mind versus conscious mind? 5% is conscious, 95% is unconscious. Well, 95% of them doesn't believe in your credibility or prestige. 5% does. Consciously, they believe they do. but there is a bigger crew behind it that are like, got to know about this guy. And so make sure that you only work with people that you have the most amount of prestige and credibility with. So who is that? Well, that is brand new people. People that have met you for the very first time and only know you as a hypnotherapist. They will always be the easiest clients you can work with. Don't ever get pulled into working with a friend or family member that's like, I can be your guinea pig. Don't do that. Don't say, you can practice on me. Don't practice on friends or family members. The danger of it is this, that they will tell you they're going to play full out. They're going to tell you that they want it to all work. But are you going to charge them money? So then are they going to be energetically invested in it? Now, you can give them an ordeal. You can give them a non-monetary ordeal. You could. But you're also then not valuing your time. You're not valuing your service. And, selling is healing. When people invest financially in something, that's a part of the healing process. That's a part of that commitment. So, don't get pulled into doing practice sessions. Now, I encourage you to practice with each other in this group. Practice with other practitioners, because you then have insight. You're kept in perspective with what works and what doesn't work. You learn from each other. You're not just doing a practice session and like flying blind. If you do a practice session, there's no one there to oversee what you're doing. So how do you know whether you're going to get the result or not? Especially if you work with a friend or family member, there's a good chance you won't. So please try to avoid working with friends and family members. And then thirdly, choose your clients carefully. Only work with people that will follow your instructions implicitly. That's prestige. That's credibility. You don't go to a surgeon. If a surgeon's going to perform surgery on you and you're like, hang on, doc, can you not perform surgery on me like that? Can you do it like this instead? You don't tell an expert surgeon how to do their job. You don't tell an expert hairdresser how to do their job. You don't tell an expert mechanic how to do their job. You have prestige. You trust in them, you've chosen them correctly, and you follow their instructions implicitly. The same thing happens is you're looking for clients who are going to follow your instructions implicitly. And that's all about prestige. Let's move to number 5. Number 5 is about being at cause. Now, being at cause is about accepting personal responsibility. So what does that mean? That means that responsibility comes from an ability to respond. And in every situation, no matter how big or small, we always have an ability to respond if we recognize it. Now, often when people feel like they can't do something about a situation, it's because they are ignoring the fact that there is a possibility there. And so what we aim to do here is we seek permission to help our clients stay at cause. So let's break it down a little bit deeper for you. So this comes from the universal law of cause and effect. So there's a universal law of cause and effect, and that is that there is a causality and there is an effect. Now, there can be a chain of things that happen in between that leads to the effect, but there's a cause and an effect. Now, the cause has the most amount of influence because it influences everything that follows on from it. The effect is just at the end. It has no influence. It's just stuck. It's just the end. It's the full stop. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just the end. And so there are people in life that are at cause, and there are people in life that are at effect. And these two columns help you understand this. So when someone is at cause, what it means is that they recognize that there is always a choice. Now, right now, we're going through some big upheaval in society around the world. Now, we all have different choices to make. We can choose to focus on the pain, on the loss, on the suffering, or we can choose to focus on rebounding, rebuilding, and gathering together. There's different choices we're making. Now, some people believe that they can't make those choices, but what they're choosing is not to recognize the choices. So they're already making choices. So we always make choices. That is the one thing that can never be taken away from us, our power of choice. We always have choices. It's just that some people make excuses. So on the other side of the fence, you've got excuses. Excuse me. It's when people are just making excuses. So what happens is they stop. I can't do it because of this. And they stop looking. It kind of just puts their blinkers on, like their sort of blinkers on, like where they can't see anymore. There's nothing to the left of me, nothing to the right of me. There's only stuff in front of me. Well, no, it's because you're not looking outside yourself. You're out of perspective. And so there are many people out there that are excuse-driven in life. And what happens is they tend to blame people. They blame people. They blame the government. You know, they could be blaming the wet markets. They could be blaming the government. They could be blaming their partner. They could be blaming all the other people at the beach. Could be blaming anything. It's when people are at cause, they focus on action. So you know what? The only thing that is going to change the situation is action. Anything else is just ideas. It's just energy. It's the action that's going to change this. And so some people are at cause. They're like, you know what? I just need to take action. Other people will blame, oh, I can't take action because of this, or I can't do that because of that. And it's that person's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. Sometimes people blame themselves, but it's coming from that place of blame still. It's like, oh, I'm just bad at it. I always mess it up. I can never do it. And so, you know, what happens is they hold themselves back. They're at effect. They're that full stop that doesn't go anywhere. Being at cause is about responsibility. It's knowing that we all have an ability to respond. Being at effect is looking to blame. It's looking, whose fault is it? Someone's fault. Someone needs to take responsibility for this. Not me, but someone else. You know, it's everyone else's responsibility, not mine. I mean, look at the wet markets. The virus situation we have right now, that is everyone's responsibility because we all didn't do much about those wet markets. Well, I'm sure many of us will start taking some action in different ways when it comes to those wet markets around the world. And so, you know, it's about not getting caught up in the fault because the fault doesn't help us. It doesn't help us take immediate action. Being at cause is about possibility. It's knowing that any one of us can change the world. If you are really motivated, if you are really inspired, if you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you have the right values, you can change the world. You can be a life changer. You can be a world changer. You can be a change agent on a global sort of scale. But then other people feel like it's impossible. I could never do that. I can't do that. There's no point in trying. I'd never be able to do it. Some people feel like they can't make chocolate cakes. I can't. Some people feel like, I can't get fit. I can't get healthy. Some people come from a place of impossibility. I don't have time. It's just it's this place of impossibility versus possibility. And then when people are at cause, they're optimistic. Now, what optimism has been shown to be is that it's still out of perspective. People that are optimistic are out of perspective. They're out of perspective. They feel like the future is going to be better than what it probably will be. But you know what that does for them? It keeps them in an inspired emotional state that helps them ride through those tougher times. Even if they are 10% exaggerated, then they're like, oh, life is going to be so good, but they're 10% wrong. Well, then they're still going to get through those tougher times to get to the good times. Whereas when someone is pessimistic, they might be out of perspective as well. It might be not so bad as what they're thinking. They might be 10% wrong, but then emotionally, they're not in the right place. They're not in the right place to take action. They're not in the right place to be fortified emotionally and psychologically to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves because they're so trained to be pessimists. They'll even be pessimistic towards the opportunities. Nah, it'll never work anyway. Just be a waste of time. Now, people will rationalize, oh, I'm just being a realist. No, you're not being a realist because no one's a realist. Like either no one's a realist or everyone's a realist because that's just a title. That's a label. No, you're just sharing your belief system. That's all you're doing. And your belief system is 100% right for you. And if it works for you, keep being that way. But it's about understanding that it's probably better. And it actually has been shown that people that get results, people that are successful are more optimistic than they are pessimistic. They are more at cause than they are at effect. It's then about, but when you're at cause, you are empowered. You recognize that you have a power to change anything. You can change your life. You can change your emotion. You can change your focus. You can change the world over time. And so when people are at effect, they're powerless. They give the power to something else. Oh, it's not my fault, someone else. It's not my fault, I've got this problem in my life. It's my partner. And so they give the power to the partner. They sit back and like, well, my partner needs to change. It's about recovering that power. It's going, no, I am responsible for this. I have a power to change this. Being at cause is being progress focused, not perfection focused. When people are perfection focused, it tips them back into effect because they didn't do it perfectly, so they give up. Nah, didn't do it. I had a good friend of mine that I grew up with that was a better singer than I was a better guitarist than I was, and had everything going in his favor. I was a better salesperson than I was. And we worked in the same company. We were involved in sales environments. We lived together for a period of time. He was destined for so much more greatness than I was. But every time he wrote a song at home and he'd play amazing guitar and it was a beautiful song, he'd just maybe make a small mistake, and so he'd delete it. He deleted the entire song. For me, I'd be playing guitar, singing a song, record it, put it out there, and that got me into a band. In fact, I was in several bands in my 20s, and it was all because I focused on progress, not perfection. None of my music was ever perfect. It wasn't perfect at all. Even our recordings, our professional recordings, I could pick up the small mistakes in it, but it was worth getting it out there. And that's an example where sometimes people are perfection focused and they hold themselves back because you know what? Nothing will ever be perfect. It can't be perfect. It can't be perfect until you release it, you get feedback, and you find out where you're out of perspective. And so it's about being at cause and being progress focused, not perfection focused. Being at cause is understanding the pain of discipline, not the pain of regret. Pain of regret is effect. Discipline is about waking up and going, you know what, I don't feel like doing it today, but I'm going to do it anyway. I can tell you that throughout this program, the training that will give you the biggest result will be the one you don't want to do. I just know that to be true. That the training that you don't want to do, the days that you turn up and you do some of this training, on the days that you don't want to do it, that will be the most beneficial training that you'll be doing because you're developing the discipline to not make decisions emotionally. When people make emotional decisions, what often happens is they're making instant gratification decisions. They're like, I don't feel like it today. So what are they doing? They're training their unconscious mind to put things off. Put things off, you're now more likely to put it off again tomorrow. Put it off again tomorrow. And again, and again, and again. And then a week from now, you're at something like 2%. There's a 2% chance of you actually doing it then. You want to build momentum. Momentum is what we want to go for. You want to build discipline. Otherwise, you'll wake up 3 months from now and you regret that you didn't do it earlier. Yeah, like I know some people that are in this program. They were in this program 3 months ago. Some of them are in it 6 months ago, who are regretting now that they didn't take action 3 or 6 months ago because they would be so much more ahead right now when the world needs them. Now they're scrambling to try and do it as quickly as possible. So it's been at cause. It's going, you know what? I'm just going to show up for 10 minutes a day, half an hour a day, whatever it is. Being at cause is about thriving. Being at effect is just surviving. It's supposed to be surviving. survives. And so it's about knowing that you want to step outside of that mammalian brain. It's going, no, I'm not going to be just a mammal. I'm not just going to be an animal. I'm going to be a human. And it's that neocortex, the neocortex part of our brain, which allows us to thrive. It allows us to plan. It allows us to want greatness in our life. And you deserve greatness. You and your family deserve greatness, and the people around you deserve you to be in that greater state of being, because you're going to inspire so many other people that way. And so being at cause allows you to thrive. Being at effect, you just survive. Being at cause means you're victorious. You can be victorious over anything. It's not about where you've come from that defines your success. It's about how much you want it. Other people are at effect and they're a victim. They're a victim their entire life. They say, well, because this happened when I was younger, that means I can't do this now. You don't understand. It's because this happened to me. Well, yeah, I've seen some people go through some horrific things in life who are now very, very successful. And I've seen people that have been through significant trauma as a child, abuse and all sorts of horrific stuff, and they are hugely successful today. And I've seen other people that went through similar abuse who are still victims. It's because some people keep telling themselves that story. They keep telling themselves the story of their past. Other people go, you know what? Whatever's happened in the past is the past. I can't change the past. What I can do is change the meaning. I can change the meaning that I get from it. And that means I'm going to succeed despite what happened to me. Which moves to the next level, which is when you're at cause, you recognize that one instance, one experience can have many, many, many meanings. When people are at effect, they think one experience has one meaning. No, it means that. Well, it can mean anything. And so you can go back and you can turn your worst day into your best day by finding the hidden gift in it. When you take cause for your life, when you take cause for what's happened to you, it's not about what's happened to you that defines who you are. It's the meaning that you give to what's happened to you that defines who you are. And so there is so much power. It's called the power of responsibility because there is power. Like when you get this, you will feel the power. If you're not feeling the power yet, you haven't quite got it yet. It's not quite sinking into the neurology just yet. When you truly understand that you are at cause, you have this ultimate power to change anything in your life. If you just apply yourself, if you take action, You come from a frame of possibility. You are optimistic. You are empowered. You're focusing on progress. You're disciplined. You're thriving. You're focused on thriving. Life gets so much more exciting, even in these challenging times, because there are still people out there that can do it. These challenging times are a bigger test to that. How do you stay at course as much as possible? How do you focus on short-term pain? Focus on short-term pain and long-term pleasure. That's what it is. How do you bounce back from all these challenges right now? We might need to go underground for 2 weeks, 2 months, who knows, maybe even 2 years. I don't know. It's like, how do we plan for the time that we get to come out of our homes? How do we bounce back from that? How do we set ourselves up for success? Not just, oh, how do I do it today, but how do I plan ahead? That is focusing on the long-term pleasure. That's knowing where I'm headed. Where's the horizon? What point of the horizon am I headed for? When people are at effect, they're focused on short-term pleasure, short-term gratification, and then what ends up happening is long-term pain. I don't feel like it today. I don't feel like it. I'll just eat this Mars bar. I don't feel like it. I'll just get Hungry Jacks. I don't feel like it. I'll just eat this fast food. You know, and one day they wake up and like, oh crap, I'm overweight. I'm sore. I don't have energy. I'm sick. I don't have money. I'm lonely. I'm unhappy. I'm depressed. How did it get like this? Well, it was because of small things done poorly over time, and they build up. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. You can either have death by 1,000 paper cuts, or you can have the compound effect that leads to success. Life is going to be painful. I want you to get clear about that. Life is painful. It's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. It's painful to be wealthy, to be healthy, and to have plenty of opportunities. It's painful. It's painful to get there. Trust me, it is. I don't know too many people who got there through luck. It's painful to get there. But it's also painful to be unemployed, to be struggling, to not have money, to be overweight, to be in pain, physically in pain, to be sick, to be lonely, to be depressed, to be focused, to be feeling like there's trauma there. That is also painful. Which pain do you want? I know which one I want. And so it's embracing that. It's embracing that and going on that journey. Now, how do you help your client through this? One thing I would say to you is simplify this and teach them cause and effect. You teach them, you give them like a 5-minute rundown or a 10-minute rundown about cause and effect. And what I do for my clients is I'll get them to draw a big C is greater than E, which is on the last slide there. C is greater than E. And then I say to them, okay, is this making sense so far? Yep, it's making sense. And I pose it to them. I say, okay, so let me ask you this. Can I ask you, are you going to be committed to being at cause for all your results and all your lack of results for the next day or so, maybe if not for the rest of your life? Are you in favor of that? And they say, yeah, I am. Awesome, great. And I say, okay, what I want you to do is make that added commitment to yourself. I want you to circle the C and I want you to cross out the E. Just make that added commitment to yourself and your universal intelligence that you're going to be more at cause and less at effect. They're like, yep, all right, and they do it. And then I go back and I just seek permission. It's okay, so look, is it okay? Look, because no one's perfect at this. Again, it's not about being perfect. You sort of spend more time at cause and less time at effect. There's times that we go into effect, and that's okay as well. We just want to spend too much time there. Do I have your permission though, just to help you stay at cause if ever you do kind of slip back into effect? Is that okay? And they say, yes, great. So now I have permission. So I have permission to challenge them if ever we need to. Hope this is making sense. And then finally, the sixth element to the practitioner mindset formula is rapport. And that's where we want to mirror and match people. Now, rapport is about trust. It's about a relationship. It's about your client opening up to you. So the way to do that, the ingredients for this is within the first 10 seconds or so, you want to try and synchronize your breathing and your posture. So on a video call, it's a little bit more difficult to notice the breathing, but you can notice the posture, whether someone's kind of leaning in or whether they're sitting back. And so you really want to try and mirror and match their posture and breathing if possible. You want to synchronize your tonality. So number 2, match your client's energy, tonality, volume, and words. So if your client's really high energy like this, like, wow, I'm super excited for this, is going to be great. Well, then you need to match them there. You need to match them in that energy level. If they're a bit more sort of like this, and they're a bit more subdued and a bit calmer, then you need to meet them there as well. And so it's about matching your client's energy, their tonality, their volume, and using some of their key words. If your client loves to talk about feeling chillaxed, then you use the word chillaxed a few times with them. So listen to their language and try to use some of their language back. Not too much. Now, where rapport doesn't work is when someone feels like you're just mirroring, or you're copying them. It doesn't work very well then. So you need to do it very subtly. Number 3, you can challenge them more under rapport. So when you have rapport, you can really challenge your client. Like, you can really challenge them quite a bit when you have rapport. Now, the power of rapport is trust. Imagine if your friend owed you $300 and they came up and they handed you a big wad of money. Would you feel comfortable about counting that money in front of them? Now, the answer is likely to be no. Most people wouldn't feel comfortable about it because they feel like if they did that, they would be saying, well, I don't really trust you. They might count it behind closed doors, but most people, if their best friend has given them $300, they trust their best friend is saying that. They might count it later on. But imagine if someone come and bought something from you from off the internet, like Gumtree, and they turn up to your house, or Craigslist, they turn up to your house, and then they're like, here's that $300 for that thing. Who here would feel comfortable about counting that $300 in front of them? You probably all would. Why? What's the difference? Because you don't know that person. You're not in rapport with them. So that's the power of rapport. You can get away with a lot of different things. So what I mean by get away with, you can really challenge people under the banner of rapport, more so than if you didn't have any rapport. If you try to challenge someone and you didn't have rapport, they'll just get offended. They'll walk away. And so ask permission to challenge them if needed. So we do this in cause and effect again, but you can do it again. Just say, look, great. Well, there might be some times where you may just kind of slip back into some old ways. Are you happy for me to just give you a slight nudge and challenge you from time to time to help you get a better result? Yeah, I am. Great. Awesome. I'm happy to do that. And so just as a quick recap to the practitioner mindset formula. So you've got enthusiasm, you've got belief, you've got leverage, you've got prestige, you've got cause, and you've got rapport. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're ticking these things off before we choose to work with our client. We want to make sure that with enthusiasm, there's some questions to consider. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to help your client get a result? If the answer is yes, tick it off. Belief. Does your client fully believe in you, in the process, and in themselves creating change? If so, tick it off. For leverage. Does your client have high emotional investment to make this change, and has it been proven through the ordeal? Have they completed their ordeal? If so, tick it off. Prestige. Does your client unconsciously hold you in high regard with credibility as a hypnotherapist? If so, tick it off. Now, basically, with prestige, the exception to the rule about working with family is if you're already prestigious in some other sort of similar role. So if you're already a doctor or a dentist or a healer of some sort and your family already look up to you in that regard, you can definitely work with them. The other exception to the rule is with young kids. If your child is under the age, if there's a child under the age of 12, typically, as a generalization, under the age of 12, they still look up to the adult as a source of truth. And so if you are working with friends or family members that are under the age of 12, of course, make sure you check with the legalities of doing that in whatever state you're in. Some states you require certain qualifications to work with kids. But if you do it through video calls, I'm pretty sure there's no legislation around that just yet. So we might be ahead of the time around that. But in terms of working with kids under 12, that again is also an exception to the rule that you can typically work with those friends and family members because they already look up to people of authority, which are typically adults. Then we move to cause. So cause, is your client willing to accept personal responsibility for their problems and also their solution? Why? Because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's the client that fixes themselves. It's not you. It's not me. It's not the practitioner. It's the client that fixes themselves. They need to tap into that inner power and recognize that it's up to them. And then finally, with rapport, does your client trust you completely and is willing to be challenged by you if needed? If the answer is yes, tick it off and it's done. If you can get your clients to meet this formula, then I can tell you the rest of the work, the hypnotherapy session is easy. This is where the hard work happens. This is where you are selecting the right client. Now, this is not uncommon. I mean, in many other industries, people select clients. You need to work with the right client. Even surgeons won't perform surgery on certain people because they're not a good fit for it yet. Well, you need to be the gatekeeper for choosing who you're going to work with. This ensures that when someone gets through all of these 6 gates, that they are going to be a great fit and you're going to be able to help them transform their life. It's what it takes to get 100% success every time. So now that we've finished this, I want to hear from you. I want you to comment below, and I want you to share 3 standout ideas. Now, ideally try and remember all 6, but if you can't, write down the 3 standout ideas you got from this lesson. I want you to understand that by representing the information, I'm not only am I going to enjoy reading your comments, but I'm doing this. I'm asking you to comment. I'm asking you to engage, because that helps you represent the information. That helps you learn it deeper. The more you can talk about it, the more you can represent it. You give yourself a 3-dimensional learning experience. One learning dimensional experience is just sitting there listening to it. Listening to it, it's creating thoughts. Number 2 is to write it down. Number 3 is to talk about it. And that's when it comes to some of the exercises that you can have with your accountability buddy and some other people as well. So comment below. Let me know what are the 3 standout ideas you grabbed from this lesson. Speak soon.